Hi folks, today we're going to have a look at the Thrunite TN36 Limited. This is what's known in the flashlight market as a pop can torch, and hopefully it should be pretty obvious why it's called that in terms of its general dimensions. It's a little bit of a chunk, as you can see, to be holding, and the reason for that is the type of batteries that it uses. As we can see, we've got four 18650s in this kind of carrying case that we pop in there and screw the top back on, hence the dimensions. Now, what's kind of significant about this Thrunite is that it runs three Cree XHP 70.2s with a rather phenomenal output, which we shall have a look at the specifications from Thrunite. As we can see there, we've got three Cree XHP 70.Bs or 70.2s with a maximum output of 11,000 lumens. That would be, looking a little bit further down, that's on its turbo mode with a runtime of 85 minutes. Infinity high is 8,000 lumens and infinity low is 96 lumens. All the rest seems pretty standard. Impact drop resistant 2 meters, IPX8 standard. It comes with a holster, spare O-rings, lanyard, etc, etc, etc. So in terms of its operation, it's a one-click on, sorry about that, and a one-click off. Now, as you can see, the the one-click on there, and that's at its infinity high, and that's its maximum setting without going into turbo at 8,000 lumens. Actually, it's just absolutely blinding. If we hold the power button, it will ramp its way down to its minimum quite slowly and then flash when it reaches the bottom. Reapply the power button and we will go all the way back up again to its turbo mode. Sorry, not its turbo mode, its high mode, and it will flash again. We can stop at any point. So if we're on the way down, we can stop and then it will reverse direction and go all the way up again. Now, something worth mentioning about this type of torch is using those three Cree XHP 70s. The first thing that we would suspect is some type of step down, possibly at say 1 minute, because the thing's getting too hot. It's not the case with this. I've put a little bit at the end of the video about its run times, but in short, this will hold its turbo mode far longer than you'll be willing to hold it in terms of the heat. On a test which you can see at the end of the video, I got 10 minutes on turbo mode before it stepped down, but at 10 minutes it isn't the kind of thing that you'd want to be holding in your hand. On its high mode at 8,000 lumens, it ran to 35 minutes and still hadn't stepped down. But again, with the turbo mode at that point, it isn't, you know, if you're wearing gloves you could probably be handling it, but otherwise you wouldn't. So I came to the conclusion that this torch is going to either hold its turbo or its maximum for far longer than you'll be willing to hold the torch itself. That presents another problem in the type of battery that you would need to use. Now, I've tried it with unprotected flat tops, and they fit and they work, but if you kind of jar it or bump it a little bit, it'll lose connection and switch itself off, and then you've got to put it back on again. So it's just a little bit they're just a little bit too short, the flat tops are. I mean, perhaps you could pull the spring, something like that. But I've had most success with this using button top unprotected, specifically Samsung 25Rs. You can get better than that, but those are just some that I had knocking around. They've got a 20 amp drain on them, so they ran this quite happily. And some of the higher spec protected button top batteries have worked, and some haven't. I've put some high performance button top protected batteries in, and they trip out. So I think you're best off with the unprotected button tops. So let's take it out and see what it can do. Hi folks, I'm out with the Thrunite TN36 Limited. Starting off on low mode, which is 96 lumens if my memory serves me correctly. A modestly decent amount of light at close range, and if we hold the on and off button, it's got quite a slow ramp. It'll ramp all the way up to its maximum of 8,000 lumens, and then blink to tell us it's reached the maximum, and then back down again. And it'll do the same when we hit the bottom. It'll blink again and tell me, and then all the way back up to the stop. We can stop at any point and it will change its direction down, back up again, and it's quite a slow ramp. And the amount of light that this is putting off, I mean, at that sort of yellowy type tree there, you see it's going white in the middle there. That's, you know, the camera's really struggling with the amount of light that this torch is putting off, and it's throwing it absolutely everywhere. I mean, as we look up, I'm not moving the torch here, by the way, I'm keeping the torch pointed at the same place, but we can see the amount of light that is just being thrown absolutely everywhere. I mean, this is like the heavens have opened up and the sun's reappeared. Really impressive. And I'm on its 8,000 lumen setting at the moment, which is the highest that it will go to using the variable mode. We can double left click at any point to go to turbo. And to be honest, I'm not seeing turbo's 11,000 lumens, so we're jumping up an extra 2,000, but it's that bright, and there's that much bounce back coming back to the camera, you know, and to my eyes from these trees. I'm just not really seeing that difference. If we had a bit of distance on, we're going out to 100 meters now. In fact, let me take it off turbo. There we are, that's high. So we're on high now at 100 meters, and you can see it's easily doing that. So whilst we're saying that it's a flooder, it has got the distance on it as well, and that's quite a large splodge of light being thrown out there, out to that 100 meters. If we had any more type of distance on, so for example down towards the end of that path, that black hole down there, it's not cutting through into the distance, but then again, it's not designed to do. It's doing what it's supposed to do, which is just throw light absolutely all over the place. This is just ludicrous. And then up into turbo again. Now I can, oh, some ducks don't like it now. On the turbo mode, I can instantly feel this getting warm to hot, and it's a very cold night tonight. So Thrunite haven't put the run times of this particular light on. What they've said is it will automatically adjust its temperature once it reaches 80 degrees Celsius, and I suspect it's going to do that rather rapidly in its turbo mode. I mean, it's getting very hot to the touch now. I'll just pop it back onto high. Now, I have been walking around with it on the high setting at 8,000 lumens, and I've kept it on that for an extended period of time, and it wasn't really running hot, and I didn't expect that, to be honest. I expected it to be running quite hot on its highest mode. Excuse me. It's a cold night tonight, but there does seem to be a massive heat implication in between using the high mode at 8,000 lumens and the turbo mode at 11,000. And down there, let's try my turbo again. Can't really tell the difference. Very slight. Don't think the turbo's worth using, to be honest. I'd just stick with the high and go with the cooler running temperature. But a very impressive light, you know, to say the least. And hopefully, as you can see, I mean, you know, it's just throwing the light absolutely all over the place. Okay, I'll carry on and I'll keep it on its high mode. If there's anything significant to add to the end of it, I might turn the video on, back on again. If not, I'll probably run some heat tests at home and pop those onto the end of this video. Thanks, folks. Okay folks, a little bit further on with the Thrunite. I've kept it on its high mode now, 15 minutes since I last recorded that clip. It's running warm. It is quite a cold evening, so as I said earlier on, I think I'd expect it to run a little bit warmer than usual, but it is holding this 8,000 lumen setting really well. And I thought I'd just stop here and demonstrate again. I'm not going to move the torch, I'm pointing in the same direction now, as we just look round at the immense amount of light that is being thrown all around. If there's anybody else walking around here with the dogs tonight, they must think the aliens have landed or something. It's just absolutely amazing. And some houses there through those trees. I mean, thinking, what on earth is that light in the woods? Somebody be calling the police. Okay folks, thank you. Hey folks, so we're back indoors now, and I've got the Thrunite with me. I'm going to perform the same test twice. What I'm going to do is obviously I'm going to time it. I've got my lux meter here to check the relative output to detect whenever there's a drop in output, and my infrared temperature gauge to check the temperature of the torch. And I'm going to first of all run it on turbo and see how long it can hold that 11,000 lumens and at what temperature it kicks down on, if indeed it does kick down, which I suspect that it will at some point. So let me start my timer, turn it on, turbo mode, and we've got an initial reading of 320 lux. So I'll leave that running and see what happens to it in due course. Okay folks, we're 5 minutes in now. The output has dropped slightly. As you can see, we're reading, or if you can't see it, it's 286 lux. So we have had a slight drop in output, but nothing significant. Temperature wise, yeah, 60. Varies depending on whereabouts you put it. And yeah, that's that's hot. Let's leave it running because it still hasn't dropped down in the power significantly. So let's leave it going. We're 5 minutes in, and let's see when it decides to drop. Okay, folks, we're 10 minutes in. The lux meter's reading 230 and dropping, and the reason for that is our temperature is closing upon the 80 degrees centigrade cutoff. When Thrunite say that this particular model will start to cut down. We've dropped now to 215 lux. So it held 10 minutes, but that's very hot, very hot. And we've dropped down now. What are we? 215. So it's backing off at well over the 10-minute mark. It's reached its limit on the temperature. Let me just quickly turn him up. Oh crikey, that's hot. We'll turn him off. Dear me, now that you're not going to be running that until 10 minutes on turbo. That's just too hot to handle. That is. In fact, let's see where we are temperature wise on the entire body. Yeah, you're not going to be holding that unless you're wearing gloves. Okay, let that cool down and I'll get the batteries charged up. Hi folks, I've got the batteries charged back up again, and just to summarise where we left it, I really don't think that you'll be using this torch for 10 minutes on turbo. It was just too hot to handle, as you can see. Now, in terms of the lux, just want to emphasise there, I'm not measuring the output of the torch. What I'm measuring is its relative output, so I can detect power drops, rather than trying to measure 11,000 or 8,000 lumens, etc. So I'm going to do the same test now, but I'm going to put it on high. So if we start the clock, and make sure it's on its highest mode. Yeah, and our lux reading now is 210. So we can see on based on that, on the previous test that I ran, it ran for 10 minutes at sort of 314 down to 290, and then at 10 minutes it dropped to 200. So yes, it dropped turbo to high approximately after 10 minutes. So we'll leave it running now and see how long it lasts on its high mode and at what temperature. Starting off, is that 20, something like that? Yeah, 20. Camera's struggling to focus. Yeah, 20 odd. Let's leave it going, I'll come back to it shortly. Okay folks, we're just over 7 minutes in now and our lux reading is 194, so no significant drop in output, and our temperature, I think 43, 44 is about the highest. Yeah, that's warm, and that's kind of substantiating what I found when I was out using it, and that the high mode was running relatively comfortably for an extended period of time. I know we're only 8 minutes in now, but I'll leave it running again. It was a very cold night, so it would have been running significantly cooler than it is in our house. So let's leave it going. We're 8 minutes in and it's still doing good. Hi folks, we're just over 21 minutes in now and we're still holding at 186 lux. Our temperature is now creeping up into the low 60s. That, to be honest, is getting too hot to handle at that kind of temperature, but we'll leave it going and see when and if it steps down. Hey folks, we're 33 minutes in, or just closing up to 34 minutes in. We're still holding at 182 lux, so there's been no noticeable drop in power. That that is hot. Temperature wise, (72) around the head, and even the body is 30, 65. Yeah, that's hot. According to Thrunite, it's going to drop down at 80, and as you can see, it's sort of, the temperature. Yeah, I think the temperature this torch gets to now is very much going to be dependent on the conditions in which you're using it. I can't see anybody wanting to run this on high for 35 minutes, and you're just not going to be able to hold it for that long unless you're wearing gloves. So I'm going to stop the test now, and I'm not seeing any step down from high. I think it's just going to carry on for as long as anybody's willing to hold it and put up with that heat. So I'll end the test. Thanks folks.